Hello there, Sharon Durbin Graves, Painting with Acrylics 101.com, coming to you from my studio here in Kentucky early in the morning. I'm a morning person and I'm a late night person, so I don't really know what that says about me. Today we're talking about color and complements particularly. So I want to get started right away, so let's get into it. Okay, here we go. I've got my trusty dusty color wheel here, and it's a 20-year-old color wheel, so it's covered in paint. I mean, it's a wreck, but that's okay. And I want to help you understand how this thing works. The main colors, blue, yellow, and red, are equal distance from each other. And they are the primary colors. And if you take any color on the color wheel, doesn't matter what, doesn't have to be a primary, it could be any color. But here's the blue, and opposite blue is orange, and that's its complement. I have put on my palette today 3 colors and 3 complements. And you just have to decide who's what, because it doesn't really matter which is the complement and which is the color. So here we have red, and opposite red is green. And here we have purple, and opposite purple is yellow. So these are all in between the yellow, the blue, and the red are the combinations. So if you took a 1 part blue, 1 part yellow, you would get green. And if you added another part of yellow to that same mix, you'd get a yellow-green. And if you took that mix and added 1 more part of blue, you'd get a blue-green. So that's how the color wheel works. That's why they're equal distances away. So as you build more color, it can fit in there. And then as you look at these shades in here, this is this color with 1 shade of white, and then it's this color with 1 thing of black and now a lesser amount of black. I don't use black. I really use the complements of the color to make a dark. I use all the dark colors to make a black. It's richer, it's deeper, it's got more life to it. In the last year, maybe last year and a half or so, I bought my 2nd tube of black in 20 years. So that's how much I use black, like never. Okay, so on my palette today, I have put yellow, orange, red. I have green, blue, purple, and some white. So we're gonna, if you want something to pop, I just tap my brush in the water, tapping it off on the paper towel. You don't want your brush soppy wet. You just want it to have some moisture in it so it will pick up the paint and work better. Okay, so we said on the color wheel that yellow was the opposite of purple, which it says violet. So we're going to take some yellow. Right there. Now there's a lot of brush rinsing in this, because when you just put on the color, you don't want another color in there, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so here comes the violet, and it's going to go right next to that. Okay, now I'm going to rinse it off again. And I'm going to pick up, we said on the color wheel that red was the opposite of green and orange was the opposite of blue. Okay, so here comes the, let's go with the orange first. Need to pick up a little more paint. Don't be cheap with the paint, Sharon. That's what I always tell my students. Don't be cheap. Okay. I'm rinsing that off. And now I'm going to pick up some blue. I had a little too much water in that brush that time. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that out. And now we're going to go for our other red. is, in this case, the color. Rinse the brush. And these are studies that every beginning painter really needs to do, not just watch, but you need to do this so you can truly see what happens here. So now I'm picking up its complement, which is green. Okay, so there's that. Now, while I have the green on the brush, I'm going to pull some green off. I'm going to work over here, and now I'm going to pull some of the red off. When you put complements next to each other, they pop. When you put them on top of each other, it does what it's called grays the color. Doesn't necessarily make a gray, but it dulls and mutes the color. So here I am, I'm adding some red to my green. I'm just playing around here to get what I know to be the right color. This is where a student should really be playing around. Okay, so here comes the complement. Let's go this way. Now that's heavy on the red side. So I'm going to add a little more green over here on this part. And let's come down here and do that. There we go. Okay. And now I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. White is the great equalizer. It lets you know what you have. So here comes some white with that. Okay. So, and you could continue to add white, and this will give you values. Okay, so as you can see how they pop right here, but when you put them on top of each other, they don't. Okay, so what does that mean to you? Well, let's see here. This is my most recent painting I did the other day. Let me get the brush out of my hand here. Rinse it off in the water. Tap it off on the paper towel and let it sit up here for a minute. There. Okay, so on this painting, you can see where the red is on this green grass and how that just pops. Okay, so if you want something, I wanted this mailbox, I wanted this flag to really pop, so I added the red down in here to kind of draw your eye throughout the painting. Underneath the tree, I didn't add, because this tree is supposed to be very far away and it's very dark back in here already. It already kind of looks like it has a shadow. But if I wanted to add a shadow under that tree, under this grass, you can see I tapped in some green and then I kind of blended it together there. So that will, if you wanted to put a shadow in green grass, you wouldn't add black. You'd add red. And that's why it's so confusing to, pardon me, beginning painters. Okay, so this is the color you're trying to get. You want a shadow underneath the, in green grass. You've got a tree and it's throwing a shadow and there's grass underneath it. Well, here's your grass. Now to make something darker, you need to do this. You need to add red to that green to make it to gray the color and to throw that shadow out there. Now here's the interesting one, the blue and the orange. Okay, so I'm going to take some of the blue over here and I'm going to add some orange to it. Now when I'm painting rocks, this is where I go. Okay, so here I'm going to add, here's my complement there. I mean, that's the two of them together. Now, that's really orangish, so I'm going to add some more blue to a part of that. There we go. Let's see what we get here. Yep. Now, again, I'm going to add some white to this mix here. Now, when I say it grays the color, this is when it truly does gray the color. So when I am painting rocks, this is the gray I use. I don't even own a tube of gray because this just has so much life to it. If I were to, you'll have to take my word for this, but if I were to open up a tube of gray and put it next to that, you would see how cold and stark it is. But this, because it's got these two colors, these two vibrant colors in it, it really, really pops. So when I'm doing rocks, this is the gray that I use if I'm going to go with gray. Then as I highlight it, I will add more orange, more yellow, or more white to it. And then I could add other colors to give that rock, because rocks are not just gray. And they're not just brown. So, you know, you want to get some depth and some life in there, and that's how you do it. Okay, so here comes my yellow. I'm going to pull it off over here. And my purple. Now this makes a really interesting color. Okay, so here comes that. Okay. So it's a brown. It really is very brown. I could add maybe a little more yellow to a part of it. And here's another mixing tip. If you're painting a painting that's, I mean, unless you're doing the back, you know, the sky or the foreground, a big color, you don't need to mix up a boatload of color. You can work on something like this. And in all reality, you cannot change a big pile of paint just by adding something else to it. You need to pull it off and work in that. Okay, so here comes a lighter shade of it, and that is even browner with the more yellow in it. So now I'm going to add some white to that, and now because it is the great equalizer, you will see just there how tan that is. So let me rinse out my brush. Working in acrylic paint, it dries really quick. You don't want to leave the paint in your brush because once it dries there, it's hard to get out. So to take care of your brushes, you want to make sure that even for just more than a minute or two, you don't leave that paint sit in there. Okay, so let's look at this closer this way. Okay, so here we had the yellow, the purple, we made some a complement there, and we added a little white. The orange and the blue, they're complements of each other. We mixed them together, made this color, we added some white, and we got this gray. So red and green are those complements. We mixed them together, and then we added some white, and we added some more white, so you could really see what you're getting. And these are values. The lighter it gets, and anytime you're painting anything, you need 3 values to it to give it form, to give it some life, to some dimension. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Let's go back to this. You can see here that I have 3 values in these little flowers over here. There's 3. There's a dark red, there's a red, and then there is some orange highlights on that. In the grasses, there's 3 different values, a minimum of 3 values in there. In these, the gravel and the rocks in here, there's probably a half a dozen values in order to make it look like gravel. This tree has 3 different values to it. The mailbox has oh gosh, I don't know how many values I put in there to try to make it look round. And so that's what color does. It lets you create form and shapes, perspective. If you'll understand how this works, your paintings will not look flat. They will have much more depth, dimension, and you'll be happier with them. And I know that's what you want to do. I know you want to be happy. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this video helped. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I sure would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, share this with anybody else you think that might enjoy understanding and learning about color. So thanks a lot. Have a great day, and let's paint together real soon.